We're live.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I call this meeting for the Holiday Iowa Suburban Improvement District Board of Commissioners regular meeting. It is Monday, March 28th at 9 a.m. We'll now stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Will the Secretary call the roll, please?
Commissioner Reagan.
Here.
Commissioner Rocher, here. Commissioner Ralph.
Here.
Commissioner Pinkley. Here. Commissioner Stiff.
Here.
Oh, that's right.
You can't call her yet.
I didn't call. So we're all four of us are here.
We have a quorum. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make that a motion.
I'll second it.
Except I want to amend the agenda, Mr. Chairman.
Very well.
I want to amend the agenda to talk about the apartment rentals downstairs.
Very well, we'll do that after we do the opening of the project for the UV bank account.
That's fine.
The agenda's been moved and seconded with an amendment. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? I have a motion to approve the minutes for March 24 regular meeting and April 15 special meeting. Everyone should have gotten them in their email and had a chance to look at it.
I'll make that a motion.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes for March 24, the regular meeting and the special meeting held on April 15th. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes have been approved. We'll move on to the swearing in of a new BOC member, Sherilyn Stiff.
Yeah, Justice
Microphone.
Peace Bruce Wright.
Microphone.
Justice Peace Bruce Wright, District 2. Jack asked me to fill in for him, and he'll be surely missed. He's a great guy. He was the fire chief for me for 18 years. So anyway, would you raise your right hand and I
I, Sherilyn Stiff,
do solemnly swear that I support the Constitution of the United States
do solemnly swear that I support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the laws of the state of Arkansas,
and the Constitution and the laws of the state of Arkansas,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the same and defend them against all enemies,
to the same and defend against all enemies,
whatsoever, and that I will faithfully
whatsoever, that I will faithfully
and impartially discharge the duties
and impartially discharge the duties
of the office of Commissioner of Holiday Island Suburban Improvement District,
as a, did you say officer or commissioner?
office of Commissioner of the
Office of Commissioner of the
Holiday
Holiday
Island Suburban District,
Improvement District,
okay, Carroll County, State of Arkansas,
Carroll County, State of Arkansas,
according to the best of my ability, so help me God.
according to the best of my ability, so help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
play it safe.
Yeah. Welcome, Sherilyn. Will the secretary recall the roll, please?
Commissioner Reagan,
Here.
Commissioner Rocher here, Commissioner Rao,
Here.
Commissioner Pinkley,
Here.
Commissioner Stis.
Here.
Everybody,
We have one. Any announcements? Rich?
The main announcement was last night, like I told all of you, the road department did get broke into last night between 2:30 and 3:10. And they've got a bunch of tools in a truck. The sheriff's department was there this morning at 7 o'clock, and then they were waiting for the investigator to come and try and pull some fingerprints and figure out see what we can figure out. Besides that, on the kitchen rebuild and appliances and everything, I was a little off on the number. As of right now, we were sitting at $41,002.
For what now?
The kitchen rebuild,
Okay.
the flooring, the paints, the everything, that is not including the walk-in cooler,
Right.
but everything else, we're 41,000. So
Okay.
I was about 11,000 off on that one.
Rich, back to the burglary at the road department. Do we have any cameras up there?
Yep, they had cameras. They found out that's when they knew it was between 2:30. He was there from 2:30 till 3:10. One guy, can't get a real good visual on him with hoodie and everything else on. So that's why they're bringing the investigator in to pull some fingerprints. Broke in the back door of the road department, got into the key safe, got all the keys, and a whole bunch of hand tools, power tools and stuff like that, chainsaws. So hopefully we can get something.
Okay.
what year was the pickup that got sold? One of the new ones?
Yeah, it wasn't the brand new one they bought last year. It was the one before that, truck number 3, which was the dually flatbed, another one of the dually flatbeds.
And no trace of it yet, huh?
No. I think a big white Ford with a Holiday Island sticker on it would stick out. But we'll find out.
Did they do anything with any of the soft computers or anything like that?
Nope, they never touched any of the equipment like that. And they didn't get into the water department or the sewer department. They didn't
They
get in
just
that
knew what
building.
they were after, huh?
They went through every truck, rummaged through every truck, and then tied a strap around the fence and to the dually and ripped the fence off the hinges, so the gate off. So and then they drove
They
off.
kicked in the door and did they have any fingerprints or anything like that?
Well, that's what the investigator's coming to find out. So we're just waiting on the investigator now,
And if somebody walked there, either they had a driver that dropped them off, or they
they're local.
lived close.
Yep.
Close. I would think the pickup ought to be able to easily to track, because it's got the Holiday Island insignia on the side.
Yeah.
Well, we know that thieves that come to Holiday Island are on the sharp. The last one stole a golf cart, got gas.
Yeah.
She's got all one too.
Yeah. So that's how we're gonna start our Monday with that. So
Do you have any public comments? David?
My name's Dave Gilbert, I'm on Oak Point Drive, and I didn't have a comment until Rich mentioned that about the thievery. On State Line, there's somebody camping on one of the properties. The Depot Road has had a van on it for a long time, and now there's another car on that same road. We need to find out who owns that property so we can get these people out of there. They say they're a nonprofit for rescue dogs, and they've had dogs there. I don't know if they still have dogs. The sheriff, our dog catcher, me, and Rusty were gonna go there Friday, but we couldn't do it Friday. But someone needs to find out who these people are, what they're doing, and maybe it's even them.
Maybe it's what?
Them that stole.
People that own the, maybe it's them, huh?
Maybe. Anyway, that's just food for thought.
Well, we can obviously through the mapping we have, we can figure out who owns the property. But as we all know, Heisen has no enforcement authority. It'll have to come from the city or the sheriff.
That van they're parking off the Depot Road,
Yes.
whose property is that?
That road is ours.
I would assume it's Heisen.
Then Tyson has the authority to tell them to not park there, or,
We have the authority to call the sheriff. The
Yeah.
sheriff can do that, but as commissioners and as a district manager, we have no enforcement authority other than the sheriff or through the court system.
but
But we can identify who owns the property.
Yeah.
And we can notify the sheriff that they're illegally parked there, we want the vehicle towed away.
yeah, they even built a shed of some sort there.
Wasn't that in the building department?
Yeah. Well, when we went down there, they said, get off my property. And I said, we're giving you a stop work order. Get off the property, we'll let the dogs out. So we backed off and we're gonna head back there again to find out who they are, what they're doing. There's no trash, there's no porta potty. It's a pigsty down there. And once one moves in, another's gonna move in. They've already got two cars there. So it's something that I think needs to be brought to attention. Somebody besides the city has to figure out whose properties those are. We tried, some LLC in Illinois owns a property that they claim is theirs.
Yeah, that's what we found out it was owned by somebody in Chicago.
Uh-huh.
And what we need to do is get a name and everything and then send them a letter saying they need to clean up their property.
Yep. Because we don't know where they're doing their business at and where their trash is going. But anyway, I just thought I'd throw that out.
Is there a house there or anything?
Some makeshift building that is illegal. And the fellow that we talked to, well, we didn't really talk to him because he can't talk. So I had a stop work order, and on that stop work order, he said, we're sorry, we didn't mean to cause you any problem. We'll prove that we're, a C something is a tax exempt for a nonprofit that takes care of animals. And he never came into the city and proved that he owned the property. So we don't want it to turn into a homeless camp there, I don't think.
Well, I think Heisen should file a formal complaint with the sheriff's office.
That would be the start. We'll go down there. I don't have a problem going down there. It's just that we need.
I mean, realistically, that's what Heisen can do is make a phone call to the sheriff and file a complaint that we own the property and that vehicle's parked illegally and it has to be towed away.
And not only that, but they've cleared an area to the next property over and they're parking their van on a pad that's down there, a concrete pad that's probably 12 by 30.
Was that from a mobile home
Maybe.
previous?
Maybe. So they're crossing two properties to get to the property they say they own.
So they're jumping on the next property.
Yep. But I know they're parking their van on the Depot Road if that's Heisen property. Heisen could tell them to call the sheriff and say there's somebody parked here that's illegal and have it towed. But even the city can't do that until the property owner complains. And we gotta get a hold of the property owners, whoever they may be.
Does that property have no frontage to access from the road?
It's like a steep, if you're going up just past the fire station, you start heading up the hill, you look down to the left, it's pretty steepish. You're not getting in from state line. You're gonna have to go cut through the depot somehow to get in, or go all the way around the Venus, come in the back way.
Okay.
Is there a license plate on the vehicle?
We took pictures of the license
Have
plate.
you ran the numbers? Did the cop run the numbers? Why not?
Oh,
Well, there's been no complaint made.
But still, you can ask them to run the numbers.
yeah.
You can, but as we all know, Gary, that you have to have probable cause or
Yes.
something to have, you can't just arbitrarily run people's numbers just for curiosity's sake.
Yeah. Anyway, that's just the lead maybe on who might have stolen that stuff. Because they don't look like they have jobs. It's pretty homeless camp, basically what it is down there. And once that starts,
Yeah,
You know, the West Coast and all around when they start.
yeah, it's harder to stop once it starts.
Yeah.
Well, I think that the board ought to file a complaint with the sheriff's office.
We can do that on the phone, I think.
Sure.
Just as long as it's your property. I don't think you can do anything unless it's your property. And that was a problem when Bill Hope was here. We had a van that was up on Sunrise. When we wanted it out of there, they were living there. Sheriff said he can't go there unless the property owner himself calls and said there's someone on our property and I want a van on our property and want to talk. That's the only way it would work. We can't do it.
Okay,
Okay, thanks.
thank you, David. Any other public comments? Gary, do you have any comments to make?
Give you an update on kind of where we're at the fire department. April 1st, we hire our third firefighter, and he's hit the ground running. We've done lots of training with our volunteers. Over the weekend, 3 of them went through our intro PPE class and got that certification. We're ready to start training on some a little more intense fires. Just I'm really, really happy to see where our crews are taking this fire department. I think y'all will be very happy with it.
Gary, we appreciate you and everything that you do and your fighters, and we can't thank you enough.
We've got good people. I'm blessed to have a good crew.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have any reports? Moving on to new business. Everyone's received the March financials. Motion to approve the March financials.
I'll make a motion to approve the March financials.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the March financials. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The March financials have been approved. We'll do the second reading of the regulation, chapter 14, section 4-3, acceptance of gratuities by district employees. I would ask the secretary to read it, but I think because you've already read through it once, I think you can just.
I'll read the title and maybe the added bullet if that works.
That's fine.
Okay. So this is the HICID, or second reading of the HICID regulation number 2025-001, section 14-3, which is acceptance of gratuities by district employees, and the addition is adding a new exemption, number 8, which reads, in the form of tips under IRS law reporting of provided to a restaurant employee while in performance of their duties within a HICID managed establishment.
Thank you.
You want me to, I think you should, I'll do a roll call
Yeah.
or any discussion.
We've done the reading. Got a motion to accept the regulation 14, section 14-3.
I'll make a motion to accept.
And then I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve this regulation. Will the secretary call the roll, please?
Commissioner Reagan,
Yay.
Commissioner Rocher, yay. Commissioner Ralph,
Yes.
Commissioner Pinkley,
Yes.
Commissioner Stipp.
Yes.
The second reading has been moved, seconded, and voted on and approved. The employees working at the restaurant can accept gratuities. Well, the second reading of the amending regulation, chapter 17, which is taking out the section for HICID's planning commission. Mr. Secretary, would you get the highlights of that?
Yep, this is regulation, HICID regulation number 2025-002, basically changing chapter 17, whereas Holiday Island Suburban Improvement District Code Regulation Chapter 17 to be removed and fall under the City of Holiday Island Planning Board. And that's basically it. Basically, we'll keep the chapter the way I understand it. It'll be a placeholder, but the planning will follow their decision.
That's correct. Do I have a motion to approve the second reading of the regulation for chapter 7?
I'll make that a motion to approve the second reading.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the second reading of the amending regulation for chapter 17. All those, Mr. Secretary, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Reagan,
Yes.
Commissioner Rocher, yes. Commissioner Ralph,
Yes.
Commissioner Pinkley,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith.
Yes.
The second reading of the amending regulation for chapter 17 has been voted on and it's approved. We'll move on to opening the UV project bank account. Nicole, do you want to shed some light on that?
Since these are funds that are gonna be separate, that we just opened a separate bank account, the UV treatment account, where, Jennifer will let us know every month how much we need to be transferring into that account once all payments are paid.
These are the documents you signed for that account. Again, do we have any public comments? No public comments, we'll move on to commissioner comments.
I can give a quick update on some research that we're doing for the water, relating to the water leakage issue.
Sure.
So, keeping the momentum moving with trying to figure out how best to address some of our water leakage, I've been reaching out to some companies. The first one I reached out to was a company called Sarah. They're a satellite company that does leak detection. I heard after doing some back and forth communications with them, they're not able to assist us at this point because what we would need to have is what's called a GIS mapping. GIS, which means Geographic Information System, and it's pretty common in the industry using maps, databases to layer different items like sewer lines, water lines, those kind of things. So it's basically getting all of our infrastructure for water, possibly, just water in this case, into a database that they could use in a future state. So for that, recognizing that we needed a GIS map to move forward with anything, basically, I reached out to some other companies that do LiDAR, and don't ask me about that, it's just like waves going into the earth kind of thing, and then ground penetrating radar. And a company that I've reached out to looks very promising. So they can come in, do some research for us. They can do the GIS mapping, which is key. But included in that GIS mapping, what they're also doing leak detection at the same time, because it involves opening up a hydrant to the valve using acoustics kind of technology, and to hear flow rates and those kind of things. So we're still in the research mode, but what I've done is I've reached out, I've sent a list of questions that they had to me, like flow rate, type of material we have in our pipes, whether we have a tracer wire on our lines, which I don't think we have. And I sent that off to the water department and Rich. So once I hear that back from the water department, I'll list the responses back, I'll send that off to that contractor. And then I'll have, based on the answers I get back from the water department, I'll reach out to some other companies as well and get some competing bids. And I'll have them send their bids into Rich, and then he'll coordinate so that I'm just in the research mode, so handing it off to the water department and Rich, and then they would, based on how it goes, but then possibly bring it for board's attention. So that's CliffsNotes version. Rough cost estimate, just because I was like, well, what does that cost and how long would it be, based on what the information I gave her. Because I gave her how many hydrants we have, how many miles of line we have, etc. And she mentioned that they typically average, if we had tracer wires, we don't. But typically they do 7 to 10 miles a day. 7 to 10 miles a day. And she thinks ballpark figure 30 to 50,000, and that includes the leak detection aspect of it. So we would have a GIS, all our water lines in this database for future reference on whatever we want to do. all our hydrants, everything to where you can send people out, the inspectors, we need this GIS mapping, I think, with the infrastructure we have, and I turn to you, but I think it's something we're long overdue for having, and being able to tie in this first stage with a leak detection and giving us kind of a baseline of where we're at right now, I think maybe some money well spent, we definitely recoup.
And the best part about this thing is they lay it over the Google Maps.
Yeah.
So then when you take and they pinpoint where all the hydrants are, you can actually click on a hydrant and put notes in there. You can put how much flow rate the hydrant has and all this stuff. So, I mean, and then he would have access, the fire department would have access to that too. And then you can also put in there, say they put a repair clamp at this area. You can pinpoint exactly where you put that repair clamp and what the date of it and how size it was and all that stuff too. So that way if you have another leak around that area, you know that you're dealing with a repair clamp that's already there.
Are they pressure testing these hydrants as they do this?
I don't think that's not part of their.
That's not part of their thing. They just go through, they find every meter box, taps, water main, hydrants, and they'll just put a pin where all the meter boxes are. They won't do a complete line all the way to the house, but they'll go from the main to the meter box, do a line, mark your meter boxes. I mean, it's just like say Carroll Electric, how they got all their stuff underground and it's all mapped and all that stuff. It's just like that. It's really handy.
And I know that I'm getting ahead because it's costs that we didn't budget for in this, but I think we would recoup costs if we can start targeting some of these. If we get some, again, there's a lot of assumptions right now, so we'll still have some research to do. We don't have to make any decisions. I'm just trying to put that out there. But the reason I think depending on how this goes and how quickly we can get this done, this could help get, for instance, if on the separate lane that we're working on with the roads, trying to identify 8 miles of road to do chip and seal for next year. If we can identify and get this done this year and target the roads to if there's any potential leakage under those roads we're targeting, we want to knock those out as a first attempt so that we can come in next year over those same roads and not have to work on something we just had issues on.
Yeah, because we're not, even with the roads getting done, we're not going to have the money to do the infrastructure under the roads before we lay new road. So if whatever leaks we can find of 8 miles of them roads beforehand, preventive maintenance, that way we're not tearing up a brand new chip and seal road.
Exactly. So more to come. I just wanted, so we don't duplicate effort and stuff, there's a lot of rumor mill out there, like nobody's doing anything. I just wanted to put something, there is work going on scenes. We're just not advertising it right now because we're still in fact evidence.
I spoke to the satellite company about 2 months ago, and the first thing they told me was the GIA.
GIS.
So I didn't pursue it any further because we don't have it.
And then now I'm seeing it basically is the first step for whatever we do, we really need this. So,
Well, I think even when you talk about $50,000 to do it, if we could fix 20% of our major leaks, we would recoup that 50,000 pretty fast.
exactly.
So I think we need to move forward with it. I think it's money well spent because the water system's not going to get any better as it gets older.
I agree. And so that's the reason I'm kind of moving really fast on this. And I know Dan owes me some answers.
Yep.
And once I get those, then I'll start reaching out to other GIS mapping companies.
Get prices.
Yeah.
And it's very handy. Once you have access to it, you can access the map on your phone or the tablet. And that way, when you're out there, you can actually pull it up and see what you got and
What
follow.
you're saying is they can do 7 miles a day?
Now that was with the tracer wire, so I'm not going to hold them with that because they said they can still do it if we don't have tracer wire on the lines because they're using ground pin. So they'll just, instead of point to point and being able to walk over this line with a tracer wire for their GPR, they're going to have to kind of really look at the monitor as they're going. So I'm not going to hold them to that because that's one of the questions. I don't think we have a tracer wire on the line because it's 40 years old and all that. So
It's a lot of it's ductile and then C9000. So,
but again, I'm just putting it out there that I have research out, and depending on the answers that come back, she's going to give me a more refined proposal.
That's good.
Okay.
David, thanks for the help.
Yep.
Jim,
Yes,
can we have a vote on opening the bank account? We didn't actually vote on it.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Can we have a vote for opening up the new bank account. We didn't vote on it. We talked about
sure.
it, but if we could please.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to open a new bank account.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded, we open a new bank account separate for the UV project. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's been moved, seconded, and approved, we'll open the bank account.
Thank you.
I would like to make a motion before we get to Doug, that I'd like to make a motion that David be named Secretary of the Board. We've not done that, and we should make David, or at least vote on it, for David to be the permanent secretary for the rest of his term. Do I have a second?
I'll second
that. It's been moved and seconded, we'll take a roll call vote. All those in favor of David becoming the secretary permanently until the end of his term? Will the secretary call the roll, please?
Commissioner Reagan,
Yes.
Commissioner Roaster, yes. Commissioner Rowell,
Yes.
Commissioner Pinkley,
Yes.
Commissioner Stitt.
Yes.
It's been moved and seconded and approved that David is officially the secretary of the board, which we hadn't done prior. We just kind of made you an interim or a temporary, but I think we do that. Commissioner Pinkley, you wanted to amend the agenda. Now's your turn, now's your time.
Yes, on the apartments downstairs, I was reading that contract is pretty, old. Secondly, it says in there, we don't rent that apartment to, people, other than, we leave it for, basically, what it says is, we leave it for, people that are working here, but I think it said it's something about 120 days in there, is that correct?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think up there it says something about for 120 days. But what I was wondering, that contract is outdated. I think we need to change that contract, rent those apartments out. To my figures of $700 a month for rent, we're losing $25,200 a year in possible income for SID, which is $25,000 wasted taxpayer money that we're not receiving. So I think we need to revamp that, discontinue that contract. If there's people that are living in there and we aren't charging them any rent, because we're paying Wi-Fi, we're paying electric, sewer, water, and if whatever we're renting, if we're charging $300 a month, we're way out of line on that. So I think we need to write a new contract, and I think anybody that's been getting that apartment, that's working for us, if it's a long-term thing, I think we need to send them a 1099 right along with their income, because that's income. Is there any comment from the other commissioners about this?
When I read it, because I had to get up to speed, I wasn't aware that we had 3 apartments that we were renting out to what it sounded like was the general public at the time, and it's not. So it's what we're using it downstairs for is basically for people that are people that are moving in and they're looking for a temporary. You're right. I think it's 120 days. I think is supposed to be the max you're in there for. And it was also good because it was for our intern programs. Then I guess we had a big intern program and they needed a place to stay. And so we have these apartments that are mainly meant for transient employees or interns. It's kind of the way I look at it. It shouldn't be, and if it is, we probably do need to look at that. It should not be full time. It should be, we have these for the staff that move in and out no more than 120 days or interns. And so I like the policy the way it is. And if it's a transient thing, I don't necessarily think we need to pay market rent for when you're trying to save costs. So that's my opinion.
If we have somebody living in there for 2 or 3 years.
And
that needs to be, if that's a bonus, that's not a bonus, that's part of their salary. Then we need to have them pay tax on that, just like every other taxpayer. Because I think we've had people living in those apartments that were not employees, that not working here, David, I mean, they're.
Well, I know, I'm just reading what the contract is.
I understand that, but we need to take that contract and nil and void it and make a new contract, and let's rent that thing out. As broke as we are here, why don't we do something, for the taxpayers?
One of them, just a little side note, one of them apartments we use for the road department in the winter too. So,
Okay. Again, I personally like the intent of the program. But again, to Doug's point, if somebody's living in there long term, then that's being abused, because that's not the intent of the program. It's not to be a permanent housing. It's to be a temporary, 120 day-ish max kind of thing. So that's what the contract says, so that's what we need to do.
Well, the contract is written. The rent is free. What these people are paying for is utilities based on their salary. So basically, they're getting a free apartment,
Which should
based on their qualification or their hourly rate.
Which should not be, and I think we need to nix that contract. I don't know when that contract, I think, was that contract written by a previous district manager, I think?
Daniel Presley, and there's no date.
And I think it's nil and void, and I think that's a crime that we're going after the taxpayer to support that kind of stuff. I think we need to change that and rent those apartments out, because I can tell you, we don't have that many people moving in and out of there. Right now, there's 2 apartments, there's nobody in there. Is that correct, Rich?
yes.
So, I mean, we're wasting $25,000 a year income, which, if you look at the water, if you look at the electric bill here, that $25,000 a year wouldn't even touch what, would add on to those electricity and would help pay a lot of those expenses. I mean, after all, those apartments are sitting there down for a function, and I don't know if there's any reason that we have that many people coming in and out that they can't find a place to live. Because anybody that is coming into that apartment and we're giving them free rent, we're giving them, basically, anybody that's renting houses or apartments in this community is getting taken, and we're directly after those people, and we're not giving those people that are earning income from that, we're actually crucifying them. So I think that contract needs to be changed, and I think we need to rewrite that contract and charge those people accordingly and stick with this 120 days. I don't think that we've had, how long has this guy living down there?
Year and a half.
Year and a half. The contract says 120 days. And we've not sent him anything. We've not sent him any W-1099, not added to his income. And if that's part of your salary, you've got to include it in there. We need to get this thing shored up where we're making what we can, because all these lawsuits going around, if we don't start doing things, getting stuff right, we're all gonna be bankrupt here pretty quick.
Any other comments concerning the contract with the apartments downstairs?
I'd like to make a motion that we have Rich rewrite the contract and get this thing under a new contract, because I don't think we need that. That contract was written, and I don't know if any board approved that contract. I've never read that contract until just a few minutes ago. So I make that motion.
Wait, I just have one thing to say. When you're looking at the contract, there's 2, and I understand the 120 days transitional part, but if you look at section 4, or, what does it say, term 4, it also says living quarters may be used by employees who are in good standing, have not given any notice of resignation, and are in the process of moving. So it could be that someone could be living down there while they're also transitioning out. But if you read it, you could also read it as if they're a good standing employee, then they can be living in the apartment whether long-term or not. I understand the point of amending the contract to possibly, shore it up so that it's only for transitional housing and we still have it available for high-speed employees. But my concern, I guess, at the end of the day would be renting it out to opening the doors up to having anyone be in the property.
We've rented that apartment down there to other people, haven't we? No. Never have rented that
No,
to anybody?
and I feel like that would,
Jeopardize what?
this building, you know,
We got a guy down there working.
yes, and he's an employee.
And he's been living there for a year and a half.
Okay,
And we haven't charged him any rent, we should be charging $750 a
Stop.
month.
Stop, listen. Please.
I've looked over the contract.
Okay, but you're not listening to what I'm saying, is what I'm asking you to do.
I don't need to, ma'am, because I'm telling you, we are not doing the right job for the taxpayer.
That has nothing to do with what I was gonna say.
All right, I'll listen. You've had a chance to read that contract just like I have.
What I'm trying to say is, if we were to open these apartments up to anyone, I would request that we would leave it as high employees. Because when you think of everything else that goes on in this building, that, you know, we've got deposits and we've got everything that comes through this building, employees are in this building, customers are coming in and out of this building, that we can't monitor what is going down underneath in each apartment. So to open it up to the public could create a problem.
Well, we could, then, let's not rent them out to anybody then. Let's not let anybody, if you're that worried about it, let's just get rid of it. Nobody that goes in that. So I think that's,
I'm on Nicole's side.
Well, I'm not.
The liability is an open liability. We're not landlords.
all right, we got a liability for the guy down there right now. We just got broke in
He's
last
an
night.
employee.
It
He has
doesn't make
been
any difference. How do we know an employee didn't break in up there? How did they know where those keys were? How did they know exactly where all that stuff was? We don't know that, okay? So, don't
But,
give me
okay,
that.
wait, whoa. Going around accusing it to possibly be a HICID employee is a far stretch.
You know, I've heard
Down a little bit.
I heard the same stuff for a year, exactly. And
You're
it's
saying
all
you've heard the
baloney.
same stuff, but yet you've never read this contract before. So how is that the same stuff?
I've heard it.
Heard what?
I've heard all the information from the district managers and from other.
About the apartments that was just brought up to you the last meeting that we had? That had never been.
No, it's been brought up a long time ago.
You said the last time that this is the first time that you're hearing about
I
it.
never read the contract, period. I've been told about the contract from other people on this board that have been on this board for many, many years.
So you've had ample opportunity to review the contract.
Absolutely. And
but you
I've
had-
talked about it for a year. And we haven't ever got anything done with it. We've always had the same excuse you just gave me. I'm concerned about somebody heck, we're putting on Wi-Fi down, it's locked up, they can't get in here. If they could break in here, period, it don't have to be that they live down there, ma'am.
No, I'm not saying that that's the case, right?
I think that's a bogus, a bogus thing you're talking about.
Well,
And I think you're taking the taxpayer and you're not considering the taxpayer of.
Okay, so if that's the case,
We're
we're
not-
gonna consider the
we're
taxpayer,
not-
you just said we're not gonna rent it out at all, so that's super helping the taxpayer, isn't it?
Well, let's rent the thing out.
Okay, can we have calm conversations?
But let's talk briefly about the contract and what it says. Housing is intended to assist in the relocation of incoming full-time staff and is intended as transition housing only. That's in section 3. Nicole quoted section 4, which says living quarters may be used by employees who are in good standing, not having given notice of resignation, comma, and are in the process of moving. It's very clear to me.
They're both, I agree,
It clearly says it's a temporary situation.
120 days, not temporary.
A year and a half is not in the process of moving.
I think we're in alignment on that. I think we're all in alignment, from what I've heard, but.
Well,
I'm opening up I'm against opening up for the public. So to me, it's either you keep it as it is or you don't rent it at all, to me. That's what I see.
I understand what Doug's saying, is that it's lost revenue.
Or a lawsuit of increased debt that goes out to pay a lawsuit because somebody, I don't know, hacked our computer that.
Wait a minute, I'm not buying that.
Or they had a party and they.
We pay a lot of money megabyte to protect us in our system.
There's so many things that go wrong as a landlord, and that's what we'd be effectively doing is, Rich becomes a landlord.
Okay, so listen, what we're discussing, what we're discussing is whether or not the tenant should be an employee or not. And if you want to say it's employees only, I have no problem with that. It's how do you go about selecting who is allowed to rent that as opposed to who is not allowed? And how do you go about that selection process?
I thought that, the selection I left, but the way the contract reads, it's like, if somebody has an issue, they're moving out or they're moving in, and I don't know the area yet, I don't want to buy, right? I'm coming in, I'm a new employee, do you have anywhere for me to stay? I do, we happen to have and if there's no vacancy, there's no vacancy, but if there's a vacancy, here, you can be in here max 120 days, max.
Okay.
I think that's fine, I go along with that, but this is not a year and a half stuff.
I think we're all agreeing.
And I had a guy jump me that's renting that apartment down there at the grocery store one day and told me he's not getting $50,000 a year, and that is part of his contract, and I never told him, I never argued with him, but I tell you what, if that guy is living there, we need to be putting that on his income tax, because that is income.
Yeah, like I said, I haven't heard anybody that's defending over 120 days, correct me if I'm wrong, but, as far as, to me, it's back for, it's meant as a benefit, a place to stay for people, to our lawyer, or something that's coming up from Fayetteville, something that's available for employees and basically employees,
And
future employees.
I've got 90 days of it when I first moved here, and it was very helpful, so.
And that's why, you wouldn't expect them to be full unless you got a couple interns.
Well, when you read the contract, it's definitely stating that this is a temporary housing situation. And it pretty much says for employees or potential employees. But what Doug's saying is that if we, let's see, the part that it's temporary, then you can't really open it up to a full-time employee for permanent type housing. So basically, it's breaking the law. Right now, it should be just for temporary housing for people moving in or moving out. For a maximum of 120 days.
And where do we fall on an intern for a summer program?
Well, they could rent that. Actually, they're not renting it. They get the apartment free and they're paying utilities. And there is a thing in the contract.
But you didn't mention that, so I'm just bringing that up.
And
And I wish that we had interns here taking advantage of it.
But we don't, and we haven't had for a long time.
And that's why
Since I've been on the board, there's been no interns, there's been nobody living in that apartment. The only guy I knew down was a guy that's been living there for a year and a half, and Rich, that was one of the things when we hired him, said, hey, we've got a place for you down here until you find a house. And he found a house and moved out.
Well, I think
He did what the contract says.
I think the apartments are a very attractive offer to potential interns to come here.
I agree.
And I think we're missing the boat by not soliciting interns so they can live free.
But this is, until last week, I'll be honest with you, I didn't know about this whole program at all. So the issue was raised, I did my own research, I read the contract, thank you. And to me, I am supportive of it. I am not against it, but I am against trying to open it up to the general public. I hear it's a potential revenue stream. I'm just not comfortable going down and becoming a landlord on top of everything else we have going on. This way, it's just on a temporary basis.
Well,
Yes, it's not long term. If we open it up, it'd be long term. If we open it outside employees.
right.
So that, to me, already shuts that down already. Who gets priority? Who gets the priority?
When are we gonna start paying Wi-Fi, electricity, and all this stuff for all the employees and the whole 62?
No, but who gets priority? If we open it up to everybody, who are you gonna choose to go in there?
Well, whenever you run their resume.
I had 100 people.
And then you rent it to somebody, just like renting your house.
I
They are seeing
I
it
disagree
like-
with opening it. I'm just not, I'm not gonna vote to open it up to public. That's where I'm gonna fall.
Okay, how about the tenants that's there now?
If the tenant is breaking the contract, the tenant needs to find a new place.
Well, it's obvious he's breaking the contract. It's a temporary move in, move out situation. He's not in that situation.
I agree.
So I think in response to Doug, I think it should be kept as employee transitional housing with a maximum of 120 days, period.
So is the
And we live
motion,
with that.
so is the motion to look at the contract, have Rich look at the contract and amend it, or make sure that it is, make recommendation on it, any of the wording needs to be changed to the intent of what we're trying to get across here.
I don't mind renting that thing out, or for employees, or potential employees, for that 120 days. The only way I could get this thing going was to bring it up at the meeting and talk about it, and get you guys involved in it. So now you're involved in it, now you will all see what the situation is.
Okay.
So I think that was kind of what I brought that up for, nothing else. Because we have, ever since I've been here, we've talked about it at several meetings, and we never did anything about it. We just went ahead and kicked the can down the road and never made any kind of move one way or the other. So now, at least it's come up, and I did make that motion. I'm waiting for that second for Rich to be able to do that contract.
There would be no purpose in amending the contract then if we're gonna keep the contract at the temporary 120 days.
That's exactly, we'll let Rich do that. That was my whole intent, was to get this thing so we don't have permanent people living there. Because that's the thing, we're only gonna allow somebody 120 days, period. Let him amend the contract to where it's correct.
Do I hear a second? Chairman, what's your take on all this? I know it's your very first meeting.
Well, I support what the contract was meant originally, was to attract interns, new employees, help them transition into the life of Holiday Island. I support that, but I agree, if there's somebody that's been down there for a year and a half, then maybe he should be seriously looking for other housing like everybody else is going to do.
Okay.
But I wouldn't want to force him out immediately.
No,
Maybe
that's
give him a time
a
frame.
30-day vacate.
Yeah, give
30
him a
days.
time frame, a reasonable time frame.
I think we're pretty much in agreement that the contract as it's written, I don't know that it needs a whole lot of adjustment or changing.
Just needs to be enforced.
We just need to live within our contract.
Give Rich the authority to.
But it doesn't seem like we have.
No.
Well,
So we waited, so if the contract is fine, then the contract is fine, let's do something with it.
Just needs to be enforced for the 120 days.
Yeah, I think the contract as it's
I
written.
think the contract's fine, we just haven't been we haven't implicated that
It has
what we've been doing.
enforced.
Alright, so we don't really need to make a motion, if Rich is just gonna take it for action, then
Yeah.
he's gonna just review and enforce.
Very well.
Okay.
Everybody satisfied with that? Nicole?
Yes.
I've got a couple other things too.
Well, it's commissioner comments time. Go ahead.
Okay, we do have, I've just been noticing that since we've got all this rain, we've got all these holes in the roads and we haven't been putting any asphalt in. I just wondered, I was gonna ask Rich, what's going on with the holes? I mean, going down Holiday Island, going here, I mean, there's some pretty good bumps, and that was one of my things. And the other thing I just wanted to have Rich comment on, I mean, on the golf course almost every day. And, just what, I've talked to Tyler, and he's doing a good job of filling these holes. I just wondered, basically, it's gonna rain this next week, and all weekend, nobody was there. I mean, I don't know if they get you would think if they're gonna be rainy weather for a week, that you would get some of that stuff done and say, okay, we'll pick up a couple days next week. Well, that didn't happen.
They were out, at least over by I live on HI Drive. And my whole way back to and from work, they had been out this week, working on the roads, filling the roads.
I live about 100.
On the road to the golf course.
No, on the roads.
Oh.
They were actually, the road department was out.
Okay, now I'm talking about the golf course.
First question was roads.
Yeah, okay.
So,
Those are the two comments I had. Now I was gonna let you take over.
So the roads, as soon as Mike gets cold patch in, they've been patching. I mean, they did Woodsdale here 2 weeks ago, and they're just trying to keep up on it. And
Well, I was
side streets.
gonna mention to you.
Yep. And then the golf course, Bill got all done. He went through and he punched a bunch of the rocks down and everything. So now, which I think it's 7, that there's still rocks and everything there. They got to get it cleaned up and everything like that. I have not got a report from Tyler to see if them were still open due to leaks or anything like that. And I suppose they just took the weekend off because
How close to done are they?
it's done. It's up and going. He had 3 leaks on the back that he was dealing with and fill in, and then I think it's 7 that has 3 holes open that they're trying to. I mean, as far as all the sprinkler
It's
heads
far
in,
from done, Rich.
as far as the sprinkler heads in, the sprinkler heads
The
are
sprinkler heads
installed.
are in, but it's
They
not.
still got to finish up the holes. Then they got to take and come in with the sand, reseed, top off
Hole
because
16 is a hole about that deep,
Yep.
about that big around where they dug it up and it's been that way for 2 weeks and it's still sitting there.
every rock that's bigger than their fists are thrown off to the side. So that way we don't have the same big massive problem like we did before.
And we've been hauling, putting them in our golf carts, hauling them down like in places where putting them up on the banks where like on one, I told the guys we need to pick up rocks and put them along those so that balls don't go down there all the time. I would have thought, but they pushed a lot of them, just pushed them in a hole off hole 14 and just pushed them off the bank. I mean, there's lots of rocks. They hauled them there with the loader and dumped them there. I don't know why they didn't go put them on 1 or 2, but that's fine. I mean, I think getting those rocks out of the fairway, I think he's doing a good job. I just kind of wondered, why we would not, if it's, the weekend, if we're gonna could get into some rainy weather here, because there's a lot of places where there's dirt sitting there, and you would have thought they would have hauled some dirt in, seeded some grass with all this rain coming. I mean, it doesn't take much. Do we have a drill for the golf course? A 4-foot drill where you can put seed in?
I'm sure he's got something
Well, I know that
Bouncing
that's
in with.
on the golf course, that all that drill does have like disc blades. And the first disc blade opens a hole. The seed goes between the 2 blades, drops it into the ground. The next one, the blades are turned this way, so they cover up the seed. So you can seed almost every bare spot, but you have to have dirt there first. So he said they were gonna haul dirt in, that this guy was gonna provide dirt a lot cheaper than we were getting it.
Yeah, he had brought in loads of sand to help out too.
Yeah, I mean, I think Tyler's doing okay now. I mean, don't get me wrong. I just wondered, maybe we need to, we should have been maybe doing something this weekend and take a couple days off during the week when it's raining.
Yeah.
Well, I had a report, yesterday at church that someone saw Tyler out working on Friday or Saturday night by himself, working. Let everybody else go home and Tyler was still working for himself, working by himself. So my hat's off to Tyler that he's doing what he can
That's right.
with what he's got. And I'm optimistic that they'll get this thing sewed up pretty soon.
The other thing with Tyler is, he's also trying to keep an eye on the budget for payroll. And you work them Saturday and Sunday.
Now you're
Yeah,
taking time and a half.
Yeah,
That doesn't make sense.
Don't we hire him by the year?
or
Tyler's salary.
Tyler's salary, but the other 4 employees aren't. So we gotta watch the hour.
I've never heard of a greenskeeper, work 40 hours a week. I golfed for 2 greenskeepers for 35, 40 years, and those guys would sometimes be there at 10 o'clock at night if they got a hole going.
Yeah, and our salary guys are. You look at Jason.
Salary.
Jason's
Tyler's out there, but
Jason's out there, or
if you have rainy weather and you got all this dirt sitting there and all these rocks in the fairway that we got to clean up and get out of there. They haven't got there's a lot of rocks. It's washed down now. Like Tyler said, the rain has soaked those rocks, and now the rocks have come up, so we need to get those off there. But you would think, and then mowing grass, that we put her in maybe second gear instead of low gear when we're mowing.
Any other commissioner comments? Agenda scheduling.
All right. So May, we can do work session on the 19th and a regular meeting on the 26th.
26th is Memorial Day.
Yeah, that's.
So it'll be the 27th. Thank you for that.
Yeah, 26th is Memorial Day.
Is it what?
It's Memorial Day is Monday,
Yeah.
the 26th.
Yeah, well, we can't have it then.
So we're saying 27th, which is Tuesday.
The 27th doesn't work for me usually. Well, it might this year. On Tuesday.
Yeah. Oh, it's,
It's golf league that day.
it's golf league for me today.
Yeah. Well, whatever.
I'm right here.
I won't be, if I don't know if I'll be here anyhow.
Yeah, that's what, when a holiday, according to our regulations, when a holiday falls on a Monday, we have it on the Tuesday.
Correct.
So that's why I'm going that route.
Well, the meeting is gonna be on the 27th, so if you can make it, fine. If you can't, we'll still have a quorum.
That's right. I may not be here anyhow, so depends on this heart surgery.
Well, I wish you the best.
Yeah.
When do you go through?
Well, they're gonna go to the heart doctors on the 5th, 2 of them, and the valve doctor's gonna put a new valve in my aorta. It's leaking bad. So that's gonna happen they're gonna tell me that day what's gonna happen. If it's gonna be open heart surgery, that's when they take your heart out, put it on the table, and you're legally dead for 10 hours. And then they restart your heart.
10 hours?
Yeah, well, it takes about 10 hours, about 9 to 10 hours for this. If they have to put a new valve in your heart, but he said if we go up your leg and we get it through there, it's gonna be much better. So, that's what I'm gonna find out, and then, Thursday, I've gotta go and have some back surgery done. Who knows, we won't know, guys, so I don't think so. So if I can be here, I'll be here, if I can't, I won't be here.
I have a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Hold on, somebody back here.
Did you do public comment or not?
I did it twice, man.
Okay.
You wanna make a public comment, you're welcome to. We're not
I just
adjourned.
wanted to recount the experience I had with,
Come on up and use the microphone so the people at home can hear you.
they don't want to hear it. Ken Mills, 20 Rocky Top Circle. I had the opportunity to take a walk with one of my neighbors who's part-time from Kansas City area. And she was asking me, if she needed to be concerned about all the bad stuff that's going on social media about the water and the lawsuits and everything. And I did my best to assure her that we don't have a real problem. It's just, it's just something we're going to have to work through. And I'm really happy to see that we're going to try and do something again on the water leaks. We did the same thing back when I was on the board a long time ago.
How successful was it when you guys had a water leak detection company come in here?
Well, finally got them to narrow it down and do it on the island only because it's less, the island water system is so much smaller than the mainland. And the density of users on that is greater. So really, you should be able to have a more serious effect on making a change. And they went in and they shut it down, put the meters on, and come up with 5 or 6 leaks and supposedly fixed them. However, the overall thing never changed. We still had 60%, supposedly had 60% loss on the island. and 60%, you know. Yeah, which I don't think is right. I don't think there's any way that the loss rates on the two entities should be similar.
Do you recall, did they do any GIA mapping?
It was probably 5 or 6, 205, 206 area. They went in and fixed the leaks, and in the next couple months they came back out, they were back at the same damn reporting. So I don't know whether, I still have difficulty believing there's not some kind of metering problem or something else.
Well, technology's changed so much even since 2020.
Very,
2005.
That's 40 years.
Yeah.
I think what you're looking at is very well, and I think you need to publicize it because there are a lot, right now we have an awful lot of part-time people who are looking at moving here permanently, and we need to get them moved here permanently because we don't, and they're looking at this crack that's on the next door neighbor and shit all the time. I mean, it's a mess. And if you didn't know better, you'd think we had a real problem. And so I think you need to publicize it. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Any other public comments? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Yeah, I made that motion to adjourn.
Well, I know, we've got this right.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This meeting's adjourned.